Well, in my recent Uparts video, I mentioned this place here known as Abu Ruash. This is one of the Uparts that are there. You can kind of see it in the shot here, this well-polished but arched piece of stone, well-polished. Seems extremely out of place. This pyramid is supposed to be associated with the rule of Djedfre, and so an earlier form. It's been pretty much destroyed though, and then there's this gap left down in the inside of it, and it's much like the one at El Arian, which is known as an unfinished pyramid and actually used for a trash pit now. But that's for another video. They've recently found something here that they thought was somewhat of a lone object, and we'll take a look at it here in a minute. So a couple of years ago, a few archaeologists thought they would come and take a look around in Egypt and see if they could find something that people had missed because they had perhaps overlooked something. They were able to find something, and like I say, this is Abu Ruash. You can tell it kind of used to be a pyramid, but I believe a lot of the stones for the Great Pyramid were stole off of this. Other people believe that those stones were stole to end up building part of Cairo along with the facings that had come off the Great Pyramid and such. But what they found here was not something that you would find up on the pyramid, but near it. For what this is a solar boat buried in a trench, very much like the one that we know of that has its own little museum set up right off the side of the Great Pyramid itself now. We've talked about it a few times. You can see all of these little notches, hopefully down in the shadowed area there, that are little dashes. And these are where each piece of board sticks together, because they have a biscuit of wood that's softer and a type of wood that really inflates whenever it gets wet, and they put those little biscuits in between each one. We've done things like this with cabinet work and stuff to this day, but they only held it together supposedly with that, and then they strapped it with ropes. And there was some bitumen sealing on the inside and such. Pretty incredible find, and again, this is from the time of the pharaohs, but this is from a little bit earlier time than we would think of. And of course, we know the solar boat here, looking at it inside of its museum that's here, and its size and its somewhat grandeur, and they say the thing could still float. But here's another one of those strange canaries in a coal mine, if you will. And whenever they did dating to the wood that's onto it, it strangely dates back earlier even than the time of Djedfre, which is a 4th dynasty pharaoh, which we just talked about, the 4th dynasties here, so it makes connections there. But it actually seems to date from around the time of Den, which is a very early dynastic pharaoh. And so it may be much older, but strangely this complex is of course supposed to have been built 500 years later after that time or so. And around the time that it was being built, the other one was actually being built also. So that's another thing that shows an anomaly in times, time scales. And like I said in a recent video, they have admittedly at one time thought, by looking at Manetho's list and all the other ones that they have, and Palmeros stone and stuff, that it could be off by 480 years or something along in that range, and actually a little bit more. With damnatio effect of how they took some pharaohs out of existence that we found now and so on, it really can get up over 500 years, and the dating on the wood shows a date of probably about 500 years that they're off. So again, from the earliest pharaohs and Den's age, which is strange. So here's another depiction of it after they get it laid out here, and you can see where the ropes used to go in between in the little slots, and then the biscuits in the bigger slots here, showing this solar boat. Pretty unique. Now we've got a second one. It's not in anywhere near as good a shape as the one that we have on exhibit that's there, which they say if squinched together just right, it could probably ride again, whereas I don't believe this one's even intact and complete. But this was an idea that they had, where this solar boat, a sacred barge, would take you into the afterlife, which actually is going up into space and traveling around through the Milky Way and making a traverse around like the sun does, like the sun god Ra does, and to come up the next day again. This is coming forth by day, or in the Book of the Dead as we know it. So pretty unique find here. I guess it's the second one, and it may actually predate the oldest known full boat, if you'll give it credit for that, if they can find all the pieces. That's what they're calling it now at this time, and it predates this boat that we're looking at by over 500 years. Again, that strangely shows an offing because there's not very much but a couple of generations between Khufu, Cheops, and Djedfre, which we just showed was after, but the dating of the boat is showing a much earlier date. 500 years earlier, in fact. So there are still finds to be found in Egypt. And here's one that just got found, last year. And not too many videos are about it that I can find out, and people didn't seem to really make that much of a fuss about it. But I guess the one thing with the weird off dating there can show you something, and maybe that's one reason they kind of avoided it in the first place. Let me know what you think downstairs. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. And peace.